spaceships behind Halley's Comet, insights from South Africa, and Pope Talk with special guest Pope John. All this and more in this episode of That Was History. I'm Cliff Langston.
And I'm Jeremy Payne. I'm sure that at one point or another you've wondered what presidents do after their presidency. Do they just sit around all day and enjoy life, or do they stay active in the political realm? Well, Theodore Roosevelt on March 23rd of 1909 would take a trip to South Africa. He was a big game hunter and loved the sport. He went on this safari on behalf of the Smithsonian Institute and National Geographic Society. On this expedition they collected 1,100 specimens and 500 big game. This was the most noteworthy collection of big game animals that has ever come out of South Africa, in the words of Roosevelt.
Equal rights has been a hot topic over the past century, so naturally there's a large collection of historical events that we could pick through in this category. So what's it going to be this time? MLK? Harriet Tubman? I'm actually thinking March 24th of 1920. It is recorded that on this day, a woman from South Africa completed her studies in women's rights around the world. Her conclusion? Women from America enjoy the most freedom of all the women around the world. Not to discredit her work, but yeah, this makes sense. But let's all keep an open mind here and remember that this was 1920. Even women from America did not enjoy the same rights as men during this time period, so this would have been something worth researching.
Every 4 years they roll around, and I'm sure that you have your favorite part to watch. I'm sure by now you could figure out that I'm talking about the Olympic Games. These games began back on March 25th of 1896 in Athens, Greece. These Olympic Games are one of the few that are acknowledged and supported equally by the majority of the world. The Olympic Games are the leading international sport which has both summer and winter events. In competition there are more than 200 nations involved. Like I mentioned earlier, the games happen every 4 years, but every 2 years you either have a summer or winter Olympics. So to clear that up for you, you have a summer Olympics, then 2 years later you have a winter Olympics, then 2 years later a summer Olympics. So the total time from winter Olympics to the next is 4 years, and the same with the summer Olympics. The creation of these events was inspired by the ancient Olympic Games, which were held in Olympia, Greece, from the 8th century all the way to the 4th century AD.
Beliefs, values, and political views. We all have them, but strangely enough, we all have our own unique viewpoint in regards to these types of things. Because of this, there are going to be times when people get pretty radical and crazy with their views. Let's look at March 26th of 1997 and you'll see what I mean. This day will forever be the day that 39 people gave up their lives in the hopes of using their soul to find a hidden spaceship behind Halley's Comet. Yes, you heard me correctly. These people were part of the Heaven's Gate cult led by Marshall Applewhite, based out of San Diego, California.
I'm sure you all have your favorite crime show that you like to watch, whether it be Law & Order, NCIS, or whatever it may be. Well, the first thing when they get to a crime scene is they look at the fingerprints to see who might have been there. And you know, this wasn't always the form of evidence that they used in a crime scene investigation. Back on March 26th of 1909, England used the first fingerprint evidence in a murder case. The first ever official fingerprint bureau was founded in Scotland Yard in 1901. It should also be noted that the first unofficial fingerprint bureau opened in Calcutta, India in 1897.
With Francis I stepping in as the new Pope, we felt it appropriate to feed you guys a little information from Pope history. Our Pope topic happened on March 28th of 1960 and deals with good Pope John. Many have gone as far as to say that he is the most beloved Pope in history, and there is probably some merit to that. Here's why. On March 28th of 1960, Pope John raised the very first Japanese, African, and Filipino cardinals into the church. The 60s were a time period towards the end of the civil rights issues concerning race, and the move helped diversify the Catholic Church. Good call, Pope John.
In the United States, you have the right to vote, and that is the most sought-after thing in a republic society. But what if you voted for something just out of pure fear for being punished for voting against something or someone? Well, on March 26th of 1936, Germany dictator Hitler received 99% of votes in a referendum to ratify Germany's illegal reoccupation of the Rhineland. Of the 45.5 million registered voters, Hitler received 44.5 million votes. All the other political parties and political liberty had been abolished, and therefore these votes weren't even counted. It was said that these voters most likely voted for this only because they were scared that they might be punished if they went against it.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode, guys, but we did want to leave you with a trivia question. In the spirit of Francis I becoming the new Pope, why don't you take a guess at which Pope served for the shortest amount of time? The answer will be in next Friday's episode, so be sure to come back and watch the next episode for the answer.
So if you've been with us thus far, you know that we have around 500 plus subscribers. But on our Facebook, the number is slacking at a mere 200 likes. So if you're not sure on how to get there, use the links provided below in the video to get there. And follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. And also, you can hit the subscribe button off to the right of your screen if you're not already a subscriber.